Hello, today I'm going to be showing you how to make a gravity gun in Rec Room using the new trigger handle that just came out. This is not an invention on my invention store because this involves beta content, so with that out of the way, let's get started. Alright, so let's get everything that we need out. So to do that, we can go ahead and open our watch, go to this room, we can go to settings, and then we can scroll all the way down until we see allow creative tools beta content. Let's go ahead and turn that on. Hit save, close our watch. Just to get one thing out of the way, since we do have beta content on, this means that we will not be able to save this as an invention. Alright, so let's get out our maker pen. So let's open our watch again, let's go to our backpack, let's hit use on our maker pen, it'll pop up right in front of us. Now, let's go ahead and open our palette. We can go to gadgets, we can get a piston V2 in the circuits V2 gadget section. We need that. We need a sound effects V2 or SFX V2. And after that, let's go ahead to props. We can go to dynamic, and it is the last page, and there's a thing called trigger handle. So get that out. That's good to go. We're going to go back to gadgets. We're going to go to gizmos. Let's get a clamp out. Put that right there. All right. Now we can go to other gadgets and get a rangefinder, which I will put right there. Alright, so now that we have all the gadgets that we'll need, let's go ahead, open our maker pen again, we go to configure, and let's configure the circuit board on our trigger handle right here. So menu pops up, I'm gonna do chip settings, I'm gonna enable detach from object, and I'm going to delete the data port, and I'm going to release the on pickup port. So all you should have right here is primary action pressed, primary action released, primary action held, and on release. Let's go ahead and edit this, and I gotta move this up a little bit, move to the side. Let's go ahead and edit, so we can get rid of this, this, and this, and we can get rid of the event receiver on pickup and the if local player should run, and we can delete the self as well. So there we go, we have that all ready to go. Now let's go ahead and configure our circuit board for the SFX V2. You can go ahead and rename it to pickup and release. Alright, let's hit detach from object, and we can close this menu. Now our piston V2 here, we can go ahead and configure the chip for that. There's this little handy button up here. It's the middle button, where it just has the up arrow and the down arrow pointing away from each other. So let's go ahead, click that. Let's hit detach from object, and we can go ahead, close those menus because for some reason they open, and then just hit delete for everything. Great, we don't need any of those. And then I'm going to rename this chip to reference point, or I'll just name it reference. Alright, so now that we have renamed it, we can go ahead and edit this circuit board, and we can delete everything in here. So there should be nothing in here. Alright, there we go. Alright, let's take out our configure tool again, and we can configure this red 0 on our rangefinder here. So we can turn that on. Alright, so let's configure the rangefinder itself. So let's configure it. Now we see a whole list of options right here. So let's go ahead and turn on ignore players. And then it says distance units right here. Right now this is centimeters, and we need this to be meters. And then we also need to check show laser when gadgets are hidden. This just means that when you turn gadgets off, you still see a laser right here, which was nice for visualizing what is in the path of the gravity gun. Alright, so right now this has an infinite distance. So let's go ahead and configure this green 0 right here, and I'm going to change this to 15 meters, so it's a little more reasonable for the gravity gun. But with all of that out of the way, we are ready to start putting everything together. So let's go ahead, take out our create tool, let's go back to shapes, we can get a cube or something. I'm just gonna go colors, make this black. So I'm just gonna get a big long cube right here. That's fine. Alright, so once you have your cube, let's go ahead and make sure you're still editing it. Hit select, let's select this, and then the options button right here, let's press that, and we can hit center pivot on section. So if you don't know what the pivot plane is, If I select this, you can see this little white square right here. So this basically is just saying, hey, I'm the center of this object right here. If you get a little closer, you can see that there are prongs on it. So the red is the X, meaning the right of the object. The green is the up, so the Y. And then the blue is Z, and this means the forward of an object. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to move this so that is facing up. You don't really need to. It's not necessary. I personally just like doing that. Alright, so once we have our block out, that's all good to go. We can go ahead and configure it and make sure that it is decorational. That is important. Make sure it is not grabbable. And then we can give it the tag grav gun. Alright, let's hit the little plus sign to apply the tag. And then there we go. We have our shape right here. I'm going to go ahead and configure this trigger handle. And I'm going to make it black. And then I'll bring it over here. And then I'm going to shrink it down a bit because it's a little too big. Once I've shrunken it down, I'm going to line it up like so. And then I'm going to freeze it right now. That's good. Now let's bring our clamp over here and wire the body of the clamp to the trigger handle right here, and then the top of the clamp to the cube that we drew earlier. Alright, now with that, we can go ahead, take our rangefinder right here, put this on our cube right here. We have to make sure to line up the pivot. Now, if you can't actually see the pivot, that's okay, we can change that. So if you hit Open Palette on your Maker Pen menu, we can go ahead and do settings, and it's at the second page, and there's a little check mark called Show Pivot. Make sure that's on. So now if you were to select an object, like I'm moving it right now, you can see the pivot of it, which is that little white square that I mentioned earlier. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to line it up with this object here. This is the pivot point of the cube right now that we drew, so like the barrel. And then if we select the rangefinder, you can see that it's very off, so we just need to move it so it's in place. Now that we've done that, we can take our wire tool again and wire the rangefinder to the top of the clamp as well. And then let's take our sound effects CV2 right here. You can just kind of put this anywhere you want. I'm just going to put that right here. I'll center it a little bit more. It doesn't exactly matter. As long as it's on the gun, you'll be fine. And let's go ahead and actually configure it real quick. Let's have it so it does use 3D audio. Now for the sound, I'm going to go ahead and scroll all the way down until I see click, because I think click is a good noise. There we go. It's just like the pickup sound. I think that's fine. And then I'm going to turn on interrupt current sound, and I'm going to turn it down a little bit, just because I do think that it's a little loud. Alright, so let's go ahead and close that. Now let's wire this to the top of our clamp as well. And now let's take our piston, put this here, and just there. That's all good. Now let's take out our configure tool, and I'm going to configure this piston, and I'm going to set the max travel distance to 0, just so we don't have that annoying green line right there. It is fine. It's not going to mean that it can't move at all, as you'll see later in the video. And then let's take out our wire tool and wire this piston to the top of our clamp as well. So now if we unfreeze this trigger handle, we can see that we have a gun. Oh, right, forgot. You can configure trigger handle and make it so it's play SFX on pressed. Make sure that's turned off. You don't have to. I just like it so it's turned off so I don't have to hear that noise. We have all the visuals done. So now let's go ahead, take out our Maker Pen again. Let's hit Open Palette, and then we can go to Circuit CV2 section in the top right, and then we can go ahead and get some stuff out. Alright, let's get out our chips. So let's look up a rec room object variable. So where is it? Here we go. So we need a rec room object variable. Let's just place that down right there. That's good. Alright, now I'm just going to rename this to object. Alright, so now we have just a chip down. I'm going to move my trigger handle right next to it, because that's where it will need to be. I'm going to move all of these things here. Alright, now let's look up a piston set distance chip. We're going to put that right next to our object variable. Now let's look up a raycast chip. I'm not going to go over what a raycast is in this video. I might do that sometime in the future, but as of right now, I am not going to do that. I'm going to move this raycast chip just right here. I'm going to move this raycast chip just right below the trigger handle. Alright, so now let's get a rec room object get all with tag, and then we're also going to need a get element. Now let's go ahead and I'm going to take my wire tool and I'm just going to tap the tag value right there, and then configure menu pops up, and I'm going to input the tag gravgun. Now let's do get position, and then we can get a get forward vector, so I'll put that there. Alright, next we'll need an is valid chip. Let's put that here, and now let's get an if chip, put that there. Now we can get a velocity set chip. There we go. It's important that it's velocity set, or else the object is just gonna kind of wobble around the point at which you picked it up, instead of just going right to it, which is not how a gravity gun works. So it is important that you do that. And then I'm going to take out my wire tool again, and I'm going to change the speed to 30. Alright, so after that, let's go ahead and get a subtract chip. And then we can go ahead and clone this get position right here. Alright, now we can go ahead and get another get position, so I'm just going to clone that one. Now let's go ahead, I'm going to take out my wire tool again, so I forgot to change the max distance to 15. We need to change it to whatever you set the max distance on the rangefinder to. That is going to be the max distance for our raycast right here. Alright, now we need to edit this trigger handle, so I'm going to edit this real quick, and I'm going to delete the if local player should run. Just going to delete that real quick, and then I'm going to change the event receiver on release to the primary action is down for the primary action released. So make sure that whatever variable you're wiring this into, it is false. This basically makes it so that if we're holding it and then we just drop it suddenly, the object that we're holding with the gravity gun isn't going to keep being pulled towards it. Now we're ready to start wiring, so I'm going to go ahead and take out my wire tool, and I'm going to wire the rec room object get all with tag to our get element right here in the list port, and then this value, which is the barrel of our gravity gun. This value I'm going to wire to the get position and then the get forward vector. Now I'm just going to move these down here next to the raycast. So this get position will go into our start position on our raycast chip, and then the direction will be our get forward vector. Alright, after that, let's go ahead and take the object, and let's go ahead and put this into our object variable right here. So then when the primary action is pressed, we can set this, and then once this is set, we can go ahead and execute the piston set distance again, and then the target of this piston will be our reference up here, and then this value that we're going to set it to is the distance between the center of the barrel of our gravity gun and the object that we're picking up. Alright, now that that's good, let's go ahead and take our object output, and let's wire this to the is valid chip, and then this is valid will go to our if chip up here. Now we're going to take the input execution of this if chip, and then this will go to our primary action held. So if this is true, then we can set the velocity of our object, and then the target will be our object, so we need to put this to our object variable right here, and then this direction we can wire to the difference of our subtract chip, and now we need to get the position of our piston and our object and subtract them so that they go to each other. And so to do that, we take our piston, we wire it to one of our get positions right here, and then we take the output of our object variable, and this will go into our second get position. And so whatever get position that you wire the piston to will go to the first value on our subtract, and then the object's get position will go to our second port. Now to have the sounds play, we can go ahead and take our primary action released. Let's put this to our play, and then we can take the execution from this piston set distance and wire this to our play as well. Now is the organizing part, so we can just go ahead and organize all of this, make sure it's nice and spiffy. Alright, so we have our gravity gun. That's all that you needed for it. So if I want, I can go ahead and take out a dodgeball right here, turn off gadgets, I pick up my gun, and I can go ahead and I can pick this up, I can toss it against the wall, whatever I want. So if I'm this distance away, it's going to stay that distance away. It's not going to get closer. So if I'm right up against it, it'll go right in front of me, and it can freely rotate whichever way it wants to. Alright, so now I'm going to give a warning to those who have actually made it this far in the video about using their gravity gun. So you can see it works perfectly fine here, and that's great, that's what we want, but that is only because it is my authority, which means that I'm controlling this ball and nobody else is. So if you touch it, it becomes your authority, and if you grab it, it becomes your authority. And that's the reason it's working so well and going so smoothly. If somebody else were to grab this ball or touch it, then I would pick it up and it most likely would go flying, or it just wouldn't move at all, because it is that person's authority and not ours. Basically, this just means that if you want to be able to pick up an object, you either need to touch it or pick it up and then toss it and then do whatever you want with it. As of recording this, there is sadly no possible way to set the authority. I hope this comes in the future, because that would make this a lot better and a lot more fun. But there we go, that is your warning. So that is how you make a gravity gun in Rec Room using the new trigger handle. I hope you learned something new. If you struggle with anything, let me know in the comments and I'll try to help you out. But that's it for now. See ya.